Psychotechnologies live.
Live. Woo.
Woo.
So,
All right. So we accidentally started before we hit the streaming button.
yeah.
We said we were talking about DNA. Daniel, do you want to describe sort of your?
Yeah. So we're talking about Elliot was saying that he thinks a lot of spirituality is actually like physically in the body. And I was saying that like yes, but well, no, I wasn't saying but. I was saying like sure. Also the way I relate to it is more in like the metaphysical, like I guess spiritual, psycho-spiritual, conceptual ways. And then we got talked about DNA. And so I'm not so for DNA, I want to say like I'm all for the science of DNA, right? Like there's four chemicals, they'll go together in different code, and that's like your code for the DNA. They're in a double helix, it's in your cells, reproduction organs, all that, right? But in general, when I'm thinking of DNA, I don't really think of when I'm thinking of like DNA, I'm not thinking of the molecule deoxyribonucleic acid. I'm thinking of like DNA, like this like conceptual thing of how it works and how it affects us and through the generations and evolution and all that stuff. So for me, DNA is mostly spiritual. Again, I'm not disagreeing with the science or anything. Like
Sure.
It's physical.
Right.
Like most of the interesting things are in genetics and epigenetics and things like that. Like the actual chemical is not that interesting to me.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to like contrast that with. So I grew up. My mom's a geneticist. So I knew the genetic theory before I got into high school. Like we got to high school biology and I was like, oh no, I already know all of this. Like, couldn't get away from it when I was a kid because it was just the bread and butter. And so I knew genes, genetics, base nucleotides, like that's so very concrete scientific to me. And so DNA starts very strongly anchored in that concrete scientific for me. Like it's really, really in that side, in that, maybe when we study genes, we study a very specific gene and its effects on the organism. So if you're talking about peas and the purple flowers or white flowers, or like the color of the beans, this is
Mendeleev, yeah.
Mendel and the peas and the purple ones and the white ones.
Yeah. So this is like, yeah, like exactly. Like this story is exactly what sums up genetics for me. It's like he discovered this because they had like the phenotypes and genotypes. Like he extrapolated all that from like just looking at the plants, and then he's like, oh, that must mean that there's this thing in there that this, and like to me that's genetics, and like that Watson and Crick came up with, like figured out that it's a double helix and like what it's chemical made of. Like I'm not dissing that. Like I think that's great science. Like good job, guys. But I don't really like think about that a lot. It's like it's not really.
Well, it's specific biology. You're not a biologist. You can leave that up to them.
Yeah. I'm not a biologist, I'm not a chemist. Those people probably have different perspectives.
Right.
But just like everyday life, like genetics are important to know about, but I don't think that knowing the chemical stuff is important.
Fair enough. Well, like I don't sit in I know of the chemical stuff. I don't like sit in them every day as a mental thing that I think about. If I think about DNA, I think about a strand. But so Gregor Mendel, pretty sure he actually faked his statistics. He in retrospect, his statistics were too perfect. Turns out when you look at a bean, sometimes you're like, this is a half bean. I guess I'm putting it over there. I guess I'm putting it like, is this one purple or white? Well, it's got stripes on it, so I'm gonna put it over. And you can sort of
I think he did fudge it a bit, but still, like that's the thing. Like, but like to me, that's that's this discussion about genes is like yeah, it works this way, but also like all this fudging things that are going on because genes are actually super complicated and you don't necessarily have these like nice clean examples all the time.
Right, but so for me, the Mendel story is like a physical story. He physically did the thing. He measured, he counted, he did the hard, 16,000 beans he counted or something ridiculous like that in order to, like a Punnett square, right? Powers of two.
He had interns.
Huh?
I think he had interns.
I don't think so. He was a monk, he did most of that himself. Anyway, right. So Mendel, the story of counting genes himself, right? That was, so for me, genetics is in the concrete, but you're also talking about this other thing, like how the genes affect you over multiple generations, right? And I can see how in my mind I've got the personal multi-generational pattern phenomena as a it's not actually connected to genes. I know it's made up of genes, but I have that in a social spiritual construct, things carry down the lines. And then over here I have the concrete ground underneath genetics. And yes, that is the same genetics, but I think about that in the more social spiritual construct, and this in the more concrete. My concrete goes higher, and then my spiritual starts here and then goes for the rest of I'm affected by my heritage, blah blah blah. But yours is comes all the way down to here, and and this is even the DNA you said is sort of more of a spiritual thing. It's my stack is there's a little bit more in the concrete, a little bit less in the spiritual compared to your stack.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. And I can see how obviously, all I'd have to do is pick it up out of the concrete and put it into the DNA works in this magical way that I don't really understand to get.
Well, you want to attach them. You want to fit them together. With
yes, and also formally, how base pairs actually connect to one another is fuzzy. How once you have a strand that codes for DNA is actually fuzzy. There's so many gaps in my knowledge, right?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Who cares about that stuff? Except for right.
It's I don't need those specifics for most of my life because I'm not a biologist or a chemist, right?
Yeah.
But there's holes in my how do genes actually encode for things? There's epigenetics that I have holes in. So much of my stack has holes in it already. There's just a hole here between the concrete and the spiritual sort of it's just, and I can just sort of concentrate more on one hole or another.
Yeah, I think a lot of my concrete is just missing, right? So I kind of all the stuff I said about genes, that's pretty much all I know about the actual chemicals of it, right?
Right.
I know the connect. I know a little bit more, maybe 3 times as much as I said.
Right. So when someone says that vaccines will change your DNA, are you scientifically inoculated against such beliefs, or are you
Well, there are retroviruses that do that. I had to look it up.
So you do have a little bit more. You have a bit more, but you recognize. I hope you recognize your fuzziness in it's.
Yeah.
From my perspective, it's not necessarily important that you know everything, but it's very important that you know what you don't know, the limits of your knowledge. And that'll
for a lot of we should be talking about COVID vaccines, but for a lot of the COVID vaccine stuff, I had to look it up because there's a bunch of people making claims, and I'm I actually don't know how this works. And so I didn't actually do that much research. I just mostly asked the people that have had a historical record on being correct.
Yeah. Well, there's a difficulty. Who was I talking? I think I was talking.
And I asked them questions too. I'm hey, what about this? How come that doesn't work like this? And then they gave me good answers. So
I was talking about some financial information with our current global climate. And someone was how would you want to take advantage of the current Russia-Ukraine conflict thing financially, stock markets or something? And my answer was, there is so much that I don't know in terms of gaining information about it, geopolitically, historically, current, that my first problem will be knowing whether I can or can't trust one expert or another expert before I can even trust what they're saying, right? Because I'm so poor on the knowledge that I don't know what I don't know about trusting an expert of the domain. And yeah. And I can recognize that. And so I could watch a YouTube video of some guy summarizing the thing or another guy summarizing the thing who disagrees with that guy, but neither of them do I know how to trust more than the other, right? Well, I have my own senses, but there's a limit to. I'm not in Russia. I've never been there.
That's interesting. I mean, like I'm following the like this geopolitical situation that's going on right now. It's a big deal, but I'm only like peripherally following it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like I can. Not really. Like some of like the big stuff, right?
Well, there's a bigger topic here of like, how do you evaluate an expert? Which applies to like psychotechnologies as well. Someone's claiming to have a brand new type of therapy, and you're like, well, I don't know. How can I trust it?
I can tell you how I do it. For psychotech, I don't evaluate if the person's an expert or not. I just try the thing and see what's happening.
Right. And if the thing gives good results, then you like, great. And if it gives bad results.
Yeah, well, I try to steel man it, and essentially.
Right.
But this is because this is like this is an area in which I wish to have expertise. So I have to kind of have to try everything, right? Everything that I don't like, some things I'll look at, I'll be like, no, that's not true. That's impossible. But for a lot of stuff, it's like, well, is this true? Is this possible? And I think a lot of people in the spaces, they start like ad hominem right away. And that's not good. That's not how you learn.
Well, there is some difficulties because, for example, fake it till you make it, right? It's an incredible paradigm. It tells you to fake it till you make it.
Okay. Fake it till you make it is not a paradigm. There are multiple paradigms in there. It's a single sentence that can refer to multiple different psychotechnologies.
Right.
And when people say things, sorry, go on. I'll respond.
No. I triggered you into something.
Okay.
All I said was fake it till you make it.
Because fuck, I hate
this. And Daniel's like, I have a tirade about this.
So many tirades. I don't even know how to organize them.
Right. Okay. Go.
Okay, because there's the fake it till you make it with like the way I learned. And I'm like, yeah, that actually works super well. And then there's the like, it starts to like straw man. And then it straw mans to the point where then like reasonable people look at the straw man, they're like, obviously this is incorrect. And then you start to get like meta relationships to the like relationships. And then it becomes this whole thing and everyone gets triggered all the time.
So I guess from a quick psychotech perspective, an expert who is saying fake it till you make it, if they've applied their own advice, they're a fake expert, right? So they are faking it till they make it, and they are telling you fake it till you make it. And so
but they may have made it.
They may have made it, they may have not made it, right? But they're faking that they have made it in order to convince.
No, you don't know if they're faking that they made it.
You should sort of assume that they have, right? Because
no,
that's why.
Why should you assume that?
No, assume that they've faked it till they made it. Assume that they've made it.
No. You can assume that if they're saying fake it till you make it, then there's like, there's a good chance that this is the tactic that they used.
Right.
But they may have been at the making it place.
As in, like they have made it or they haven't made it.
Like they've already made it. Like they faked it till they made it, and then they made it. So now they're not faking it.
Right. That's possible. And there's also another possibility, which should be indistinguishable if they're a good faker, right? That they haven't made it, but they are faking it that they have.
Yeah. That could be, right? Like you gotta look at that and see.
Right. And there's a real problem here because there's someone here standing in front of you saying you should fake it till you make it, like I have. Look, I've made it. And you should immediately go like, really? Have you?
faking it?
Yeah, are you faking it? Right.
Yeah.
And so it's it's a beautiful paradigm that eats itself, hopefully. But
Yeah.
there's someone out there busily saying, yeah, you should fake harder. Fake it till you make
I like paradigms that eat themselves. Like,
right.
It's a good description of that phenomenon.
and the reason why I pick it up as a like, should you trust this expert who's saying fake it till you make it? Like, on some level, if you can steel man it, then maybe it's good advice. Maybe you can fake it. Maybe you can make it if you fake it. Right?
Yeah.
But only
like,
if you told that.
Yeah, like I do this for like improv, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't do improv a lot and I'm not good at it. But like I go there, and when we do improv, I pretend I'm good at it, and I pretend I know what I'm doing, and I pretend I'm like doing everything. Right. And I get feedback and stuff after, but like I'm also not going around telling people that I'm good at it.
Right.
But I am faking it until I'm making it, because that's how you learn the skill. You just do it until you're good at it, and then you keep doing it.
Right. So chances are there's someone out there who has made it and was like, sometimes I had to fake it, and therefore sometimes it's good to fake it as you make it, and you can trust them and can listen to them. But if you're bad at evaluating experts, now what?
If you're bad at evaluating experts, then just like know that you're like bad at that. And so don't, like, this is the thing, like if someone's saying fake it till you make it, now you have distrust for them, like that's on you, that's not on them. You're not able to test this person's knowledge properly to the point where you don't know if he's an expert or not. And so you need to either, like STUF or get good. Because like what else are you gonna do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Unless like some of the stuff has like objective criterion. So like a race car driver, if someone says that they're good at race car driving, you can see
have a
did they
time
go around really fast in a circle, or did they crash?
Yes. Or do they have some really good excuse about why they don't have a time for traveling?
No, if they didn't do it and they have a good excuse, the best a good excuse can do is say, okay, I'll let you have a retest. Like that test was void, and I'll give you a different one. You don't get to pass the test just because you have a good excuse.
Yeah.
The test is how good are your excuses?
Yeah.
Like if you have if you have a test on like good excuses, and then you're like, oh, I can't take this test, and you have like a great excuse, and then it works, then like you pass that test. But everything else you don't. It's the most you get is that it's null. It doesn't count towards the statistics.
Right. Yeah. I'm ideally what you want is the expert can prove that they are in fact expert in that domain on the spot, right?
Yeah.
If the expert is like an expert in being confident, then they can just, I am confident.
Yeah.
And that's a real easy one, right? But there are like, there are other ones that are like race car driver has to have fast reactions. Maybe you can prove that on the spot.
You can prove you have fast.
I mean, you can just pull out the time and be like, this was my fastest race, I'm a race car driver.
Yeah, like it's usually like something in the past. Like you've demonstrated something that you've done.
Ooh, that's a tricky one, because there is some measure of accomplishment that makes you an expert sometimes, like achieving a qualification or completing various projects that, if you have a medal that says number one, you've got a number one. But that is a past accomplishment.
I have a mug that says number one boss, so I guess I must be the best boss.
Yeah. Right. And so that's a past thing. But what we really want is we want a continuously demonstrable skill. Right. So
yeah. But if you've done a race every week for the last 3 years,
the race is like you can be like, I'm ready to race again tomorrow. Like, okay, you can't do it right now because external constraints, but
Yeah, like I think there is something of like being able to tell over time what's going on.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think there is like you're only as good as the last thing that you did. Like this is
Hmm.
true for a lot of professions. Like I used to be cook, and like you're only as good as the last meal that you made. Right? You're not. There's no like it's not necessarily actually how it works. Like practically and like for hiring and stuff. But like when you're like on that cook level and you're seeing like who's good at what they're doing, you can like look and you see, and just because the guy has like a big hat and it's got certifications, if he makes a dish and it sucks, then it sucks. Like the proof is in the pudding, right? Like if your pudding falls or if your souffle falls, then then it fell. And
Right.
you didn't do it. Like all the excuse in the world doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And I
Right.
think this is interesting because like not to knock psychology too much, but like psychology doesn't do this. Like there's no like they do like if you're a psychologist, that means you're good at school. If you're a psychiatrist, that means you're great at school.
The same is said for doctors. If you got to be a doctor,
Yeah.
you completed the like memorize a lot of things and complete school.
Yeah. And one would hope that the people
That
who are in charge of giving out the degrees and stuff are doing their job properly, but like that is a hope. Like you're hoping here.
That's not
This
a
is
reasonable hope. That's why we sort of need to outsource, right? I can't spend all day deciding whether I should trust or shouldn't trust someone. And like, there's 1,000 doctors. Some of them are qualified, some of them are not. In my imaginary world, I need to choose which ones to go to. Well, I'm going to pick the qualified ones because someone else has verified them for me. I don't need to go to a doctor, have him stitch me up wrong before going to another unqualified doctor, have him stitch me up wrong before going to, right?
right,
I can
right. Like
trust that someone's
especially
qualified, go straight to the qualified one.
yeah, and like yeah, like if I need heart surgery, like there is no way I can tell if somebody's qualified or not. Like
Right. You
not
need
even
some
close.
other system that is existing, like the education system, the certification, verification, re-education system that says, yes, this person is okay to do that thing.
Yeah. So yeah, you need a system. You want a system that will give you like statistically likely answers,
Mhm.
statistically likely correct answers. And this is why I love capitalism and like markets, because I think that they're really good at this
Good
over
at
time.
good at what exactly?
They're good at verifying stuff. They're good at like keeping.
Hmm.
They're good at yeah, they're good at verifying stuff. Like if you're going to go outside and like you're going to go to like anywhere and get stuff, like if it's a business that's been around for a while, and there's like competition, like and it's like the market conditions have been met such that it's approaching um equilibrium, yeah, then like you're usually pretty good.
Hmm.
And
See,
especially
okay.
now that you got like Google reviews and stuff, like
So that sounds right, right? Capitalism is good at verification. That sounds right. But I'm like trying to work out how I know that. Or like I don't usually put verification in the same bucket as capitalism. Capitalism, free market, exchange, that sort of thing. I don't usually think of capitalism as completing a verification system, but
really,
maybe it is. Well, it's just the word verification, just the whole concept of like,
it's not like it's not verify, like it's not 100%. You're just
no, but it's like a
maximizing the outcomes.
majority sort of vote system.
Yeah, you're assuming some risk, but you always assume risk. It just sometimes people reassure you so you don't think about the risk.
Um, verify. I don't know if do I credit capitalism for like if I'm like, oh, my roof is leaking, I want to get my roof fixed. I obviously open my local directory for tradespeople and find someone who fixes roofs. But capitalism hasn't verified if they're a better or a worse one, other than they might go out of business or get sued if they're really bad.
Yeah, there's a survivorship bias.
Right. But there's also
Together,
classically, and I picked the roof one because it's been raining here for like a week or two. But classically, roofing is the thing that anyone can sort of say they're a roofer, climb up on a roof and try and fix things. And so you get a lot of potentially bodgy traders. You get a lot of bodgy in every industry, but bodgy roofers do exist. And they'll be in that directory just alongside the other ones who aren't bodgy.
What directory are you using?
Any directory. Any like.
So yeah, like if you're using something like I think like Google Maps and stuff has like done an amazing job. If you're using Google Maps, like they have reviews. And so if there's a review, like 3 reviews, then and there's one with like 40 reviews.
Right, but we just have this other system where there's too many reviews and none of them are specific, and some of them are really old, and some of them are that most of them are 5-star because the person's paid their friends to review them for.
Yeah, and there are ways of gaming the system and all that stuff, but like I don't know, like it kind of like works really well for me, to be honest. Like all this stuff, and I think it works really well for most people.
It's interesting. I think about like my relationship to tradespeople, and I'm like, oh, how I do it is I meet them and I become very friendly and I get to know them. And that way they are much less likely to screw me over because I have had an interesting conversation with them and gotten to know that they know what they're doing, or like I can read them. I use my like interpersonal verification skills.
Yeah. And they're doing this. They're doing that. Like they know like this is part of the job is to like connect with the other person. Versus like if you think of like doctors, for instance, like it's not their job to connect with patients.
But it is. Bedside manner is like 80% of the job.
Yeah, not really, because it depends where you are. But
yeah,
in Canada we have universal healthcare, so like the doctors just like whatever. Like it's like some of them do, some of them don't. Like if they want it, they do it. If they don't want it, they don't do it.
There's statistics on doctors who get sued, and basically doctors who get sued have poor bedside manner.
Yeah.
So doctors are incentivized to make friends with their patients and stuff, but
yeah, and to that extent, like there is somewhat of a selection process in the sense that yeah, like the ones that are like not on the same page as the patients are more likely to get sued and things like that. But it's like, so there is somewhat of a market still, but it's like the effect size I think is way more decreased than and then but then also like there's the system behind it, right? Like doctors work with other doctors, and people who become doctors are generally people that want to like help people. So there are selection processes there and all that stuff. Like I'm not saying it's totally like that, and I'm not saying we should have like a complete just chaos free market system where anyone gets to say they're a doctor. Like, you know, there's obviously like this is obviously a very complicated issue.
Yeah, very complicated. But yeah, I want to roll back to that question of evaluating experts, right? It's a hard thing to do, actually.
Yes and no. Most of the time you don't need to know. Like, let's say the Ukrainian stuff, right? Like, so there are people that very much need to know what's going on there.
Right. I, from a great distance, don't really need to know.
Yeah, neither of us are one of those people that need to.
Actually, if I had like expert financial opinion, maybe I would place bets in the market in a way that I felt was profitable.
Is that your limiting factor? Like if I found you an expert, I'm like, hey, this guy's an expert. And you're like, yes, I agree, this guy's an expert. And he's like, hey, this is what we know. Would you then you're like, okay, well, that's done. I now know which bets to place.
It might need to be a few experts because, so this is a separate construct that I have been reflecting on lately, which is that opportunities, by virtue of the shape of the efficient market, need to be obscured in order to be opportunities. Because if they were like, if you were walking down the street and someone was like, hey, I'll give you $10 to put my bins to the curb, my trash to the curb, and you were like, oh, I want $10, you would just take it and do it, right? So for that opportunity, like opportunities that are not obscure just get taken up like fluidly, right? So for an opportunity to be to remain an opportunity in such a way that you can find it, right? It needs to be slightly obscured in some way, even by accident. Like the people who want you to take their bins to the curb are too busy sitting on the couch, right? They're not actually standing in the street asking you to do it. They're like a little bit further.
Like they're not starting a bidding war. They're just like, I just want to get this done.
Right. But they're like, they're not saying so. They're some distance away, right? So whether you could be paid $10 to take someone's bin to the curb is a hard opportunity to find, because people who are already standing in the street are probably just taking their own bins to the curb.
Yeah.
So there's the virtual
jumping on the outsized opportunities.
Right. So I feel like, why don't you just find an expert and find information on the market? And
I didn't say why. I said if. Yeah.
If you found a good expert and had information on the market, do you think you could just act on it? Well, I would suspect, and this is not necessarily true, that I might need multiple experts and I might need to gather information across domains in order to find an opportunity that wasn't already universally known and already universally taken advantage of.
Right. I think that's a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff.
Right. Suddenly there's at least 2 experts, maybe 3, in order to find like someone's opinion that because of Russia, then energy companies here and will go up, and then like
it's going to be something with energy.
Right. Sure. Well, clearly I picked up a little bit of data here and there. There's energy stuff, there's oil stuff, there's, so I know a little bit, but I might need to find multiple experts. I might need to find an expert on Russia, and then an expert on energy, and then an expert on energy in this particular country, and then like an expert on how
together, and then figure out timelines and politics. Right. Yeah, I think that's sort of my point is that like for sure there is market capitalization here, but I don't think it doesn't come down to. For somebody it might, but I think for us it doesn't come down to like, well, which expert is, correct.
Well, that's part of it. Like, yeah, that's the more correct information I have, the more likely I will find those opportunities.
Yeah, and so my general point is that like I don't know how to find the expert on the Ukrainian situation, and it doesn't matter. Because it doesn't actually life.
Right.
And then number 3, I'll tell you how to find the expert.
Right. So one of the things I'm working on in my mind, in my sort of personal coaching paradigm, is around opportunity, right? I want to find good opportunities in my life, and I want to take advantage of them to great flourishing potential, right? And so if I was like, okay, Daniel, Psychotech now, let's cultivate opportunity. How do we do that? What is an opportunity and how do we cultivate it?
This is interesting. And I want to make a distinction here of like opportunities versus like possibility space.
Right. Because possibility space, I could, travel to America. I could eat a pie. Yeah. I could do all sorts of things.
We could talk right now. This is a thing that we do a lot in like the Think Better stuff. Is like we'll like talk and like we'll come up with, we'll be able to have conversations that like maximize possibility space so that we're not cutting off possibilities in our exploration of ideas. Right. Like this is just like a basic level, like just general rationalist thing is don't disregard something just because it sounds weird, right? Like actually think about the thing for a couple minutes before you just dismiss it.
Right. So we were talking last stream about placebo pills, right? We could sell super calm.
That idea makes me laugh every time.
Right. So I asked a few people and someone mentioned that they do exist. You can just buy them from a chemist. And I was like, oh, when I Googled it, they didn't come up. I'll have to do more research. But the question is that an opportunity? Have we actually stumbled on an opportunity?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so curious about this. This is a good conversation.
Well, I don't know if we have or we haven't. And clearly I still haven't done the rest of the research to see what companies are actually out there.
Right. So how would you determine if this is an opportunity for you? Like I have a whole calculus already, but I want to know. Yeah.
Right. So one thing I've already been doing is working out, is there someone else in the market? Right. Because if someone else has taken up the opportunity, then we shouldn't expect to see a profitable edge.
So last time we did, like we kind of steel-manned it, fleshed out the idea. And so now like the first thing that comes after like the idea is somewhat, theoretically at least viable. Like it exists within opportunity space.
Right.
Within
possibility space.
Possibility space.
Right. But is there already a company out there selling the thing? Or
right. Like, so now your next step is, do I have competitors?
Right.
So there's a lot of entrepreneurs that would do the Google search that you did. It wouldn't come up, and then they would say, whether or not I have competitors, there's still room in this market.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I feel like that's a reasonable conclusion to draw, especially given I Googled it and it didn't come up. So yeah.
Right, which means like
even if there are competitors, they seem to suck at what they do.
Yeah. So even if I have to compete with someone, I'm competing with sucky people, so I can do that. Would this still be considered an opportunity for you?
So right, is the so we there is what is the opportunity, I guess, is the so first of all there's the idea.
Good question. You can take your time.
As in, like, is the opportunity the idea, or is the opportunity the profit?
What is the opportunity? Yeah. What is an opportunity to you? Yes.
Oh no, at some point I've said a word too many times and I have semantic satiation where I'm like, pronouncing it feels a bit weird now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I can take up some space to give you some.
No, but like, so one aspect of the opportunity last time we talked about was just creating the idea and having fun messing around with the, what if we called it supercalm, or what if we called it this, or what if we called it that? That was fun to do as an opportunity to come up with the idea alone, whether we actioned it or not. Right.
That was a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Go back and watch that stream. That was well and truly worth it. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is part of what was implied in my head behind that conversation was maybe if I put in the effort and made the tablets and printed the labels and published an online store, I could make a profit, right? So the part of the opportunity that I was looking for was an opportunity for profit, for making money. So is it still an opportunity? So even if there is a competitor, there may be a chance to still make money. Although a competitor, and if there are existing products everywhere and they're reasonably cheap and they have the marketing, like maybe it's harder to compete than I thought. And so the opportunity to make money in my mind is maybe lower, but it doesn't look like it, right? I Googled it, I couldn't find it. And so maybe there is an opportunity to make money here. Along with that, so some barriers that preserve opportunity is the barrier to entry, right? So I Googled it last time, a like pill press machine. So something that like squishes.
So go back a second though. Just so like to you, when you're looking at this, it's an opportunity. Like there's the opportunity. You're investigating whether or not there's an opportunity for profit. Yeah. So like you're like kind of profit motivated. You're looking for profit opportunities.
There are other things that could be opportunity, like it could be an opportunity to make a friend or an opportunity to do other things. But for this one, I was thinking of profit. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't dissing that. I'm actually all profit. I'm not looking that much for profit opportunities because I got a couple that I'm working on. But in general, I think that's a great thing. Yeah. Actually.
Yes. I think, the last stream when I was talking about it, the opportunity I was after was either profit or it just sounds like such a fun and funny little project to make them. And so there was something like
that. Like, so it was an opportunity to have some fun.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Make good jokes. See, like how much clout would that give you if you show up to like a rationalist or meta-rationalist space?
I'm the guy.
You're like, oh, what do you do? You're like, oh, I make placebo pills and sell them. Like how much street cred does that give?
Yeah, I would even say like if you showed up to like a pharmaceutical conference.
Oh shit. You love chemistry, right? So this is like also an opportunity for you to hang out with like chemists and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can already hang out with chemists. There's,
But
there's
like
really
prestigiously, like you own your own pharmaceutical
there's
manufacturing company.
there's so there's two things there. One is the opportunity to own a company, and the other is the opportunity for something like notoriety, right? Or like to be important or famous in some way.
Yeah, well, maybe more infamous than famous, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the close enough.
Whatever, it's the same thing, right? People still
Yeah.
hang out with infamous people.
Yeah, pretty much. But there's an opportunity to get slightly more famous, just like making psychotech streams is an opportunity for us to increase our fame just a little bit if people watch us. Yep.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So that is there's some of the opportunity like
I mean, to me, I'm doing a lot of this just for street cred, to be honest.
Yeah. The you get the parasocial relationships, you get the like the knownness, you get the like your thinking is out there and other people are like I think like that too. But so this cluster here of like possible profit, possible infamousness, possible you can meet on the stage of pharmaceuticals or something. That's a benefit too. These are all like when I'm thinking of an opportunity, I want like a whole bunch of cluster of good things, right?
Yeah,
I want a cluster
like
of good things.
reality, or it's like intersectionality of things that you like, and then you could do this thing, and then it kind of like it like improves a bunch of different dimensions of different aspects of your life or things that you're trying to do.
Right. And so
that's a good way to think about opportunity.
But one of the things that separates opportunity from just like ordinary experience is that I guess opportune implies like timely, but I was thinking more it's different. It's got some novelty to it that is different to your everyday. So if you were already on the track to fame and fortune, and I was like, here's this opportunity to get you fame and fortune, you'd probably be like, I've already got fame. Like I'm already on that path. Like I don't need, that's not an opportunity. That's just what I already do.
It's just a distraction. Like you're not providing anything of value. It
needs to be opportune. It needs to be some extra on top of.
Yeah, I like that. It's like something about like this moment in time has in this place has like an outside, some sort of low-hanging fruit that you can pick or take advantage of or exploit or whatever.
Yeah. And so there's something about opportunity that implies that it was not already available, right? It needs to be like, if it was already available, then it was not an opportunity, it's ordinary. So to be an opportunity, it needs to have some gap, some barrier, some like.
I want to push back on this because I think this is not necessarily a good view. I think a lot of people
not necessarily the healthiest, no.
Because you're filtering out your normal life and you're saying, okay, normal life is not opportunity, only new things are opportunity. And to be honest, I'm like 99% sure that like the best opportunities come from your normal life.
That's a fair point, yes.
But often you need to like go outside and do something else before you realize, like before you're able to put two and two together and look around and see, oh, actually I could do all these things. Like I could do this thing. That's just
actually I had a spare room in my house and I could have put it on Airbnb already. Like, oh.
Yeah. Like that's it feels like a nothing, like, oh, I could just do that and it's super lame. But it's like that mundanity, but like it happens to be like a really good actual like idea or way of doing things. And it's like a lot, like you don't see it because I don't know, it's like too normal or something. You like filter it. And to me, and then it doesn't feel like you've done anything because you're just doing the things that you should be doing.
Okay, so
but those are what heroes do anyway, right? Like when you have like heroes, like they save someone from like a train or something like that, or even like soldiers in combat, they're never like yes, I'm so brave, and they're all like, well, unless this is what I'm supposed to do, so I did it. Like,
Mm,
and then everyone else is like, holy shit, like actually that was pretty
sure.
nuts. But like
Mm,
in the moment, it doesn't necessarily feel nuts. I
yes.
think I've never been a hero before, but that's what I understand.
I have also never quite been a heroic superhero style person. But okay, so there's something I would have said there's something not ordinary about opportunity, but maybe it can be ordinary too.
Yeah.
So part of my sitting on the topic of opportunity is to it seems like a good signpost. Like I want to head towards more of that in my life. And so I must be, in order to do that, I need to do something different to what I'm already doing in order to head towards it.
Tell me more of this.
Well, so this is starting to be like theory of change. I have, like I have, I wave my magic wand through the air, and I made the decision that opportunity is good, and then I made the decision that opportunity is something different to what I currently am or have, and so I would like to go get it. I'd like to move from here to there in order to have more of it, so that I have. Yes, that's a great idea. I want more opportunity. And then so there, in theory, maybe there's something I need to do, maybe not. Maybe after this journey I come to the conclusion I already have all the opportunity I need. But
This is like a young man's perspective, I think. It's not a wise man's perspective.
ooh,
So like young people need, or women, young people in general, they need to like, you need to get out and see the world. And so even if you're not like necessarily that smart about it, like it's fine, you got youth, right?
in order to see the opportunity that is already here, you need to see the world.
Not necessarily, but so that's what I think. Like there is something about like going out there and seeing what's going on, and like that is something valuable. But I think like wisdom is about knowing, like realizing like there is no here or there, like there is no in here or out there, like there's just like stuff happening.
As in the way that I have separated opportunity and said it's elsewhere, and therefore I must travel to it, is an illusion.
Yeah.
Therefore, I shouldn't do that, and I should instead accept the fact that opportunity is already here. And
Well,
can.
what you should do, I think we need a little more diagnosis, because
Right. Okay. Maybe there's a little bit more, but there's something like where I put opportunity over there, and like the going to get it is false.
yeah,
Okay.
and like realizing that like it was inside you the whole time, right? Because even if you go out there, like once you're there, it's now here. So you have it. Like you're gonna have the same problem once you get there. You're gonna be like, oh, I need to go out there to get the thing. And like any opportunity, like especially like you're talking like business, things like that, whatever, like it's you that's doing it, and it comes from inside. And so even if it's like the best opportunity, it means nothing if you can't, if you're not there, like if you're not present with it and like doing the things that need to be done. It's worthless.
I am now thinking if I am doing this, the silly dance of putting it elsewhere and then chasing after it. And I guess my question is, do you have a map for how do I tell if I'm doing that one or not doing a frivolous run around?
Yeah. Not exactly a map, but I have some heuristics that I use.
Sure.
So first off, this is also all just one possibility why you would want to go out there. You could want to go out there for like a bunch of other reasons. Like you might not like where you are, you might want to be in transit. You might be searching for something that you don't know what it is, and so you're kind of wandering around, hope you bump into it. And those are like different reasons why you would leave a place or why you would want to go out there. And so often, like we were talking about before, like I don't know if we said this on stream, but I heard the story of like this person that we were talking about, I think, weight loss, and someone they would eat cookies every day. And then they realized that the reason they ate cookies is because they were at the office and the cookies were in the cabinet. And so they had to get it out of their desk and go to the cabinet, and they got to talk to a bunch of people along the way. And they just need that.
This is sort of Atomic Habits, I think it was. Or The Power of Habit, one or the other. I read both those books really close by, so it's one or the other.
Yeah, so something about habits.
There's a book with like a hamster wheel on the cover. That's what. Anyway,
I actually thought this was a story that happened to someone you knew, but okay.
No, it's like the prime example of that particular book. And I have a whole rant on systemic versus adaptive problems that goes with this story. Anyway,
yeah. So like you're doing a thing because you want something else, and like this is like a proxy for that need. So right. For me is I would say is like, what's the need that you're trying to get met? And then if you meet the need, then often you wanting to go out will disappear, or it becomes like more pure, more noble.
As in like, so if I say my need is I have a desire for profit.
Then... So if you say you have a desire for profit, you're like, hey, look, I want to make a bunch of money. That's then like, okay, like how do we do that?
Therefore, I'm looking for.
You might not need to leave to do that.
Right. Fair enough. Yes.
Or you might need to, right? But like, you can like think about it and process it more. Is that the need? Like we can just explore this if you want to. Like if you're like, hey, I want to make profit, like this is the thing I want, then and you're like looking for opportunities, then you're looking for opportunities of profit.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm turning to opportunity, or like studying the construct of opportunity, so that I can see profitability more clearly. Profitable opportunity more clearly.
Right. So the thing is, I think in our day and age, it's like there is something about like looking for opportunity, but like there's just too much of it. Like there's just too much opportunity and too many things you can do nowadays to it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to look for opportunities. Like you want to like, and this is just my personal philosophy, I think, or not my personal, like I stole it from a bunch of people, but I'm not saying this is true and everyone has to do this, but you kind of want to do the things you're passionate about, and which I know sounds cliche, but you want to do and then like get really good at them, and like then look and then like be trying to provide value is like a big one. Because when you do that shift of like providing and capturing value, which is essentially what profit is, you start to see the world in a more, and like in that perspective where everything is opportunity. At that point, it's just cost, benefits, how much, all that stuff. Like, what do you get stuck doing? Does that make sense? That land.
Yes. I'm still wondering about like, so your proposal is do what you feel passionate about and then the profit will come, sort of thing.
It's not exactly. Everyone always says do passion about. The thing about passion, like the thing that you're really interested in, you could do way more than everyone else. So like you can become an expert way faster in things that you're interested in than things you're not. So your interest in something is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be good at something. And like the rest of the world is just so big and so changing that like unless you like have a plan or something, like it doesn't, or there's like a skill set you want to build, or like there's like it doesn't make sense to necessarily look at what the actual opportunities are in the world, especially if you have nothing to back it up. Like if you don't have the skills and knowledge and like opportunity from inside you to back it up, then there's a good chance that opportunity is going to disappear by the time you're ready to capitalize on it. But if you're really good at stuff, you're really passionate, you're like doing the things all the time, then you can see the opportunities come from a mile away. And you can say like, hey, I want to jump on that train and it's all the way out there. I need to get like my shit in order so that when it shows up, I can just jump on it. Like, buy a ticket or whatever. However trains work.
I need to stand in the line now, buy a ticket, so that when it gets here, I've got my ticket.
Yeah. Or like, like, there's this thing but you have to like order 3 days in advance, but it's like, it's 3.5 days before it. Now I have to scrounge the money and plan all this and do that. Like you're coming off already like half cocked. But if you're hanging out at the train station all the time, like looking at the trains, watching them go by, talking to the engineers, doing train stuff, and then like you hear about a cool train coming through, you're like, or you look around and you're doing the stuff and you're like, hey, this is actually really annoying. Like people have to carry on their own bags, or the ticket stand is all the way over there. Why don't I just figure out a way to automate it? Or this is like the big one, is like when you're trying to do stuff and you get frustrated over and over again of the same things, and everyone has that frustration, like boom, that's the opportunity. Right? Like that's the startup. It's like everybody's super annoyed with this thing that's really easy to solve. You just solve it, and you charge them some money for it. Because then it's like you're not looking for like pain points. This is the thing, because like businesses comes from pain points. So you don't want to look for pain points. You want to just like listen when people are complaining about their pain points. Right? Like this is how customer interviews I think are done. It's you just want them like talking about their stuff, and then when they keep like when they keep not doing the obvious thing, you're like, hey, why aren't you just doing this? And then they're like, well, that's not how the industry works. It's blah, blah, blah. And like they give you this whole rant, and you're like, but it should work this way, right? And they're like, yeah, that would be so good. But you're like, but this is really simple, right? Like, yeah, but like the big wigs in charge, but like they don't have any regulatory power, right? Yeah. So like anyone can do this. Like, I guess. Like, okay, I'll just do that. Now you're done. Or like that's your opportunity. I don't know. That's my stuff. I feel like I've been talking a while. Yeah, and I don't have the chops to back it. So
it's all right. It's all part of it. Part of the conversation.
Yeah. I'm not trying to come across like an expert. I don't want to be under that kind of scrutiny. I'm just a guy that does a lot of internet. Reading on the internet.
Yeah.
But these are my thoughts.
Yeah, I guess I'm the topic of money is sort of floating around my life at the moment. I read a book on psychoanalysis and money, which was interesting. It sort of talked about the different ways in which money can affect psychoanalysis. So one example is that if you're giving therapy to a young person, they may not be paying for the sessions. And so there was a couple of stories in the book of like a 7 or a 9-year-old who suddenly found out how much the sessions were costing, and were like very upset at their parents because they were like, do you know how much Lego I could buy with $100?
Yeah.
like don't waste money on a session. I'd rather have more Lego. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I bet like sometimes that's probably right.
Sometimes you're right. Sometimes they could solve a huge, bigger problem with a bunch of Lego than with another therapy session, just by hanging out with their Lego and being happy and enjoying themselves.
Yeah. Because like I mean, for my kid, a lot of times like he's like upset or whatever, and you get him this like new toy that's like complex, and then he'll just spend hours like trying to play with it and figure it out. And now you don't have to listen to him cry anymore. Right. There was this Scott Alexander post where he wrote that this guy came in and he's like, yeah, he he's like money issues, and like he's suicidal because he owed $5,000 and he didn't know how he was going to pay it. And so he was at this hospital for a week. And Alexander's like, his treatment cost way more than $5,000. Like if they could just give him the money, they would just cure him. Like cure him, whatever.
Yeah.
But now that he's at the hospital, like it's not nearly as effective. Like nothing's gonna, not much is gonna happen.
Well, I'm like, there's two things there. One is the like the
There was
money,
a ton of caveats. Yeah.
and the other is the like, oh, I'm having a suicidal feeling based experience that I don't know how to deal with. And both of those are important problems that could be addressed. And definitely, maybe the suicidal feelings would feel better if the money pressure wasn't there, like the $5,000 in this example. But
Yeah.
also, you're still left with the possibility of I don't know how to deal with suicidal feelings that is remains even without the money pressure there.
Yeah.
And some people may go their entire lives without ever having to deal with such an issue, and other people can really benefit from addressing it sooner.
Yeah. I think in that case, he felt that the treatment that the guy was getting was not
right, of course.
it was not worth the $5,000. But yeah, like there is definitely something of like you have problems and I could solve your problem, but instead I'm going to teach you how to fish instead of giving you a fish. And that is
some benefit,
right for abuse and right for a lot of benefit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's parenting is always coming up for me around these talks because like, yeah, I think like a parent's job, like a big part of parenting is to figure out that line.
Right. Like between too much help and not enough help.
Yeah. Because like you don't want them relying, like you want them to be able to like do it themselves because you know you're gonna die one day, and lots of other reasons why you want your kid to be independent. But also like you don't want them to feel unsupported. And if you could like help someone and you don't help them, then you're a jerk.
This is did I tell you my rant on this? I have a rant on
sure.
How do you help a 3-year-old dig a hole? Right? Have I told you this one? I hope I haven't. Okay. You're sitting next to a 3-year-old, and 3-year-old is digging a hole, right? They're in the sand pit, they're digging the hole. And you're like, oh, it's hole digging time. Let's dig the hole. And you like start digging with them, and they're like, no, my hole.
Yeah.
And you're like,
oh, Elon Musk, can I borrow your boring equipment?
Can I borrow some digging stuff? We're digging a hole. Elon's like, hell yeah, I'll be here. Your kid's like, no, back off. This is my hole. And you know, obviously 3-year-olds don't have that much language, but the kid's like, no, you know, my hole. And so now you're like, oh, okay, I'll just leave you alone. And you know, you stand up to walk away, and the kid's like, no, don't leave. And you're like, oh, okay. I'm not allowed to dig, and then I'm also not allowed to like walk away, do something else, right? And you're like, hopefully you're a good parent, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna listen to the kid. I'm not gonna ignore him when he told me to like no, I'm gonna like. So you're sitting there, and the kid's like digging, right? And you're like, I want to help, but I don't want to help. Like obviously he said don't dig, and so you're sitting there, and you're like, oh, I know what I can do. And you see a shovel in the ground nearby. And so you pick up the shovel and you like put it nearby so he can pick up the shovel and dig, right? So you could like, you haven't done the digging for him, but you've gotten him the shovel, right? You're like helping him dig.
Support.
Yeah, right. There's like a playing support thing that you're able to do it. So now he has a shovel. So he's digging the hole and there's a shovel. Like there's something you can do by not leaving and not like doing it for him, right? There's a skill of like walking that fence line between. The same goes for like I would say helping a kid climb over a fence. The same thing, like you can be like, let me just put you over the fence, and then there's a like, let me like give you a foot up, but like, you know, let me put my hand here so that if you're worried you're going to fall, the hand's here, but you don't have to grab it unless you need it. And then like, you know,
and like how much support and stuff.
Well, I would say that there's a dance here, and it's a dance that as a parent you should be demonstrating that dance as gently as you can. Like you don't want to get frustrated and be like, fine, you don't want my help, I'm walking away.
Dig your hole. I didn't want to dig a hole anyway.
Yeah, you don't want to That's not a very adult thing to do to a 3-year-old who's just saying, don't dig my hole, it's my hole, right? You don't want to do that. So you want to like, you kind of want to stay, you don't want to be digging the hole for them. Maybe you want to dig your hole, another hole next to their hole, so you can still do something, but not do what they're doing. Like it's play. It's gotta be interesting as well. You don't want to be like sitting
like
there.
You want your presence to be positive to them, but you don't, but like you don't want to take away that like autonomy. Like you want to build that autonomy, not
right. So you don't want to sit there and resent them for like telling you can't leave. Like that's also unhealthy.
Yeah, people do that, I think.
People could do that, right? So the first mistake would be to dig the hole. The second mistake would be to walk away. The third mistake would be to resent the kid, do neither but resent, right? The real dynamic thing would be, okay, I've got to stay here. It's my job as an adult to entertain myself, even though I'm watching this kid dig a hole and he says I can't do it.
Yeah, you're really breaking this down. Yeah.
You got to grab the shovel, you got to hand it to him, you got to say, hey, I'm going to dig a hole over here. Is that okay? And he might say yes, he might say no. Like, like you've got to be able to be present to yourself and what's going on in you. You don't want to then like start digging the hole and compete, right? Yeah. Your child, your adult caregiver is always gonna beat you at what you're right. Yeah, you don't want to like get unhealthy competition.
I think it's fine if it's someone else's kid, but yeah, I don't think you want to do that to yours.
Well, you might want to get a little bit of healthy competition, but you don't want to get competitive such that you could always, an adult can always be a 3-year-old at a digging.
Just like smack him with the shovel.
Yeah. I'll dig this hole faster than you. You don't want to like throw sand in his eyes so he can't see while you dig your hole. You're like,
I play dirty. You gotta know how the real world works.
Right. And so just like the simple example of I want to dig a hole, or I want to help a 3-year-old dig a hole, and we've gone for the like the overprotective, the avoidant, like so you do the hole for them, the avoidant parent, the like you just walk away, or the like dismissive avoidant, the competitive parent, right? They're like, I'm gonna race you to it. Like there's so many ways to do, and this is such a simple example. Like, and it's not that one example like digging the hole with your child once will change their life. It's that a series of examples where you consistently perform a particular way will teach them the counter pathology to your pathology, such that if you're competitive and it's uncontrolled and it's in your shadow, start to bite them like over and over and over.
Yeah, you're talking about my nightmares here.
I'm sure. I imagine I'm talking about a lot of like triggers. Yeah, even a lot of people's own parents who have their pathology that became unchecked and became a counter pathology in the child.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because like I know I have a lot of pathologies, and I do not want them to have the pathology, nor do I want them to have the counter of that pathology.
Right, and ultimately, like. There's an important thing here that your parent themselves is not to blame for the pathologies they have, because they picked it up from their parents and their parents and their parents. Like it's all a mess, right? Yeah. But we're all doing our best, and so we want to be a little bit compassionate to those parents, and also like we're going to do our self-work and reparent ourselves to get ourselves back more balanced and healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot there in just like helping the kid dig a hole, right?
Yeah, it is. Like it's everything, like because everything you do, there's another layer I just sort of realized recently, because I'm usually I like in life I like to play different parts, but like I can't really play parts that aren't the parent part.
Like for your child towards this,
like because like I'm never gonna be not his parent.
There would be moments where you can be his friend or his competitor and. Or his competitor.
Yeah, I can play other parts in addition, but I can't lose the parent part.
Well, perhaps this is obviously a long-term thing, but when he transitions to coming of age ceremonies in various cultures and he becomes an adult, you can sort of become a peer then, but there will still be a little bit of
that's later. Like he's not going to be a peer at 13.
No, well that's the Jewish culture 13. Coming of age, not really applicable to modern society. In Australia, it's 18. In America, it's 21. You can start drinking. Like that's a coming of age. In Australia,
no. Okay, so there's coming of age, and then there's your parents become your peers.
Right.
So like the coming of age thing, like I think there's like there's not like one age where it's like, well, now you're
Right. It's sort of a transition. There's things like being able to drive, being able to drink, being able to get a tattoo, or being able to join the army. Completing a
but those are
degree,
like
getting
the
married,
new
or
systems.
having your own children is another example of coming of age in a way that
Yeah.
you are now a parent, and so you can see your parent differently now that you're a parent.
Yeah.
And being as old as
But
I
that happens all the time. Like even now I'm going through and like as like now that I'm a parent, I'm actually relating to my parents a lot better. Like
am.
I feel a lot more like I get them more.
Oh, that's nice. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And that's also like that's an epistemic shift that it's useful to tell people that you will get your parents a bit more once you have kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you get people when you walk a mile in their shoes. And like you don't get parents until you walk a mile in their shoe. That being said, a lot of shit people say, oh, you'll understand when you're a parent. Yeah, I understand that you fucked up. Like sometimes that is the understanding that you
Right.
get.
Sometimes it's a double down, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes like, yeah, I understand and you're wrong. And you should have listened when he said it.
Yeah.
And that does happen. I feel like that's a scary thing to say on the internet. Sometimes parents are wrong and they make mistakes. They should have fucking listened to their kids.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes this way, sometimes that way. But yeah.
I feel like there's a lot more there. And I'm gonna we don't have to go into that right now, but I feel
Oh, we can. There's a lot, like we've gone through like a lot of stuff and like we're having like one of those conversations where all these threads get opened and then like we pick tangents on them and we go through. And then we're just like kind of like riffing, I guess, versus like a concentrated where you have like focus and talk on a thing for an hour. We should do one of those one time. Not this one.
You have, yeah, I was thinking of
but like because we need to demonstrate what concentration looks like, because I don't think we've done that yet.
There's also a benefit to permitting the journey making through various topics.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I was just thinking that it's
we also we did pick the topic of opportunity and dance around it a bunch and keep coming back to it, exploring different aspects of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not dissing us. I'm just saying that's like it's just sort of like a meta general psychotechnology comment that there's an opportunity for us to one time do an episode where we can't where it's not like an ADD episode where we're like, okay, this is the thing that we're going to talk about. We're going to try to flesh this out, and every time we get distracted, we move.
Hey, if you want to do the topic of ADD, that could be an interesting.
Oh my god, that would be the best.
You want to do
an episode on ADD where we just focus on ADD the whole time, and
we can do a mental health series. We can do a whole bunch of different mental health conditions.
Oh, we did the other series. I forgot. Maybe that does.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do a mental health series. There's clearly a lot of.
Oh shit! What stuff should we do?
Huh?
Should we get psychologists? I know a bunch of psychologists. We can get them to.
I would pick different mental health conditions, and it seems like often from the outside it feels very different from the inside. Like people on the inside of a condition often feel misunderstood, and people on the outside of the condition often feel like it's very foreign to be like those people over there are very foreign inside the condition.
Yeah.
And so there could be some bridge crossing available there.
I would love to do that.
Sure.
Actually. Yeah, because I really do think a lot of mental health is actually should be much more relatable than it is. And I really do think a lot of the ways people conceptualize mental health conditions are just really off. Just really off in ways that make me think people don't understand how their own mind works.
Right. I suspect that one of the things that one of the qualities of mental health one of the things that we do is we pathologize, right? And we pathologize anything that is extreme. So if you are
A lot of people do this, yeah.
if you are selfish,
I
that's
don't
fine.
like this we thing, like a culture, like we as a culture do this because like it's like that.
Well,
like
but I think that
it.
it's not personal. Like it's not about me, and it's not about any one person specifically does it. But it's a universal pattern that we pathologize. Well, we take an aspect of what it is to be human, like selfishness. This is the one I was about to go for, and then we take that, and then it leans towards the extreme, and you're extremely selfish or extremely self-centered or self-focused, and then we name it narcissism, and then we pathologize it, right? And then we make it a negative, and then we make it like on the extremes, these things don't fit in society, right? So narcissism, as an example, on the extremes, they're quite antisocial. They threaten social order. They create a lot of drama and stress for the people who are surrounding that thing, and they create dysfunction. And so we pathologize, and then we try and treat it, right? Because it is just that is
I think it's a little bit
extreme, and then we're like, oh, we need to do something about this. We're going to diagnose it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like when you said you take an aspect of human nature, and then like I think there are people, like there is a perspective where like, okay, what is this aspect when taken to the extreme, and then what is that pathology? But I think like most of like psychology, like let's say like DSM, you probably guys don't use that.
No, we do. I'm familiar.
Okay, because I think Europe uses a different one. Like that is a lot of that stuff is from like people have pathologies, obviously, and then they're like, what the hell's going on here? And
well, another aspect is that we separate difference.
That's where the conditions come from.
Well, one thing we do here as well is we separate difference, and difference is much more visible at the extremes. So selfishness is part of the normal common human variety. At the extreme, it's obvious that you're being a narcissist. Like, and so we separate it, and we
pathologize. So you're saying selfish and narcissism are the same thing, which I don't think that's correct. I think there's a
complicated.
But yeah, like let's say the like that cluster B personality disorder, which is like where narcissism fits in, is something like, yeah, like like you could easily look at those people and say these people are being very selfish. But I think that's sort of true.
Well, so the thing you said earlier was that mental health is not very relatable, and I'm proposing there's a paradigm of creating relatability by taking normal variety, like distractibility, and then taking it to the extreme becomes ADHD.
Let me think about that for a second.
And I would propose there's a whole spectrum. This belongs in a whole new episode of like
sure
paradigm.
Yeah, it's like these, like you're saying, like look at things as a spectrum, and then see, hey, normal is here, and abnormal is on the edges.
Right. Well, it's even
and then more abnormal is more edges.
It's even like it's debatable where those lines are, right? Where does normal end and pathology begin? Well, we tend to make pathology into dysfunctional. Like if you have a pattern that is dysfunctional, then it's a pathology, and then we need to address it and work on it. But if you have a pattern that is it's fine. So the example I really like is like if you have a sleep condition where you stay up really late and then you sleep in through the morning, right? And you wake up at 11, 12, and then you have breakfast sort of lunchtime, and then you just stay up really late, and then you sleep in, right? You could just be living a life like that. You could have a flexible hours job, and you could work afternoon, evenings, and then like it's really nice working after midnight because everyone else is asleep, right? And then you could go to sleep late and then do it again. But as soon as your job...
Or Australians.
Oh, spicy. As soon as your job calls you up and says, hey, we need you in the 9 a.m. meeting, and you're like, oh, I can't, that's the middle of my sleep, you know? That's when like your sleep pattern is becoming dysfunctional for your lifestyle, right? And that's when you might want to start addressing it. You might want to start like doing something such that you shift your sleep or start treating that condition so that you can actually meet the 9 a.m. meeting when it calls.
Yeah. So if you can't get up at the 9 a.m.
Right.
or like, your life is damaged because you try to go to sleep and you can't, and then that has negative effects on your life.
So until your life is actually pressuring you to change it, you don't have a pathology. You just have a weird sleep pattern, you know?
Yeah.
And as long as you're fine with it, if it's upsetting you or worrying you, or, you know, there are other parts of your life, like you want to go out, you want to have breakfast with people and you're always sleeping in too long, like, sure. Or you want to, like, you get lonely if you're up after midnight and no one else is awake. Like, suddenly there are aspects that you want to be dealing with, and maybe addressing your sleep would solve some of them. But until there's a problem, don't pathologize, don't deal with it. Like, you just sleep different to other people.
Okay, yeah. So let's I want to nuance this a little bit, because like I agree with you. I think this is how like psychology is done. I agree with you that this is a good way to do psychology. But I do think like there is like this like positive side of psychology where like yeah, maybe your teenage kid or adult kid is or you is I'm totally not talking about myself, guys.
Yeah.
Is staying up late, and like it's not that big a deal, but probably their life would be better off if they had a normal sleep schedule.
Right.
And
well, someone's got to draw that conclusion, right? And that, first of all, someone has to draw that conclusion. Second of all, they have to be right. And like I said, the person who's got a flexible work hours and he sleeps in and he works whatever, his life might not be better. He might be having a great time. He might be living his best life with a weird sleep schedule compared to the rest of us. But you're right. If it is a problem.
Yeah. Like that's what I mean. Like it's if the person's like, no, this is how I want to live my life. This is what makes sense to me, and my life wouldn't be better off that way. Then, like, there's not really any, like, and they're right. Then there's no psychology really here to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know someone who so he had a kid and he
high fives or something.
Well, he was like trying to work during the day, and then there was always a kid and his wife and blah blah blah, and it was suggested to him, hey, why don't you try get up at like 3 a.m. 4 a.m. and work for a few hours before other people are up. And he did, and he's like, oh, this is great, everyone's asleep, no one bothers me, like, you know. And he's like given himself a pathology of like sleeping at weird hours in order to get his work done. Like, there's almost like
that's not pathology at that point. That's
strategy.
Early bird gets the worm or something. Well, get a jump on life.
as long as it fits with the rest of his life, right?
Yeah.
So what looks like a dysfunction for one person can be super functional for another. Like, so it's important to keep that in mind.
That's
important when looking at the mental health paradigm. Like, are you having a problem? How bad is it? Because if you're just like sleeping more, sleeping less, maybe it's not a problem. Like, you could save yourself a whole lot of heartache by being like, oh, I've decided this isn't a problem.
That's actually funny. Yeah. That happened to my mom, actually. I don't know if I could say the story. She was she wasn't like sleeping a lot at night, and she went to like therapy and all these things and all that. And then it turns out that she just didn't need that much sleep. So she wasn't sleeping a lot at night, but like she was clear the next day. So she's just like, oh, I guess I just don't need as much sleep as I thought I did.
Yeah, and potentially
now that pathology, like that insomnia, is now gone because she's just okay with what's going on.
Short sleeper or something. And you know, if she ever decided that she wasn't super clear the next day, then maybe she could start addressing it. But while she's clear the next day, she's just part of the normal human variety of light sleeping.
Yeah, like some people, they're as they get older, their sleep patterns change, and how much sleep they need changes.
Yep.
And like maybe she was just getting better sleep actually, and then so she just needed less of it. All right.
Yep. So anyway, there's something important here of like treating mental health within the context of, is it dysfunctional, right?
Yeah.
Only if it's dysfunctional is it worth addressing. Like, as you said, though, someone can come along and say, hey, if you
Well,
slept at these hours, maybe you could meet us for breakfast and you'd have a better social life. And
yeah.
once you
Yeah.
realize that you're missing something, you can go, oh, I'm missing something. I should do this differently.
Yeah.
And then you can
Yeah.
do it differently if you want to.
Yeah. Because then, yeah, there is another thing of like, well, I don't do anything all day anyway. So I might as well stay up all night and then sleep during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can become a thing
yeah, it can be a self-perpetuating pattern
where it's like, okay, let's address this. You're not doing anything during the days that you're like, and then like maybe it's not because you're asleep, like maybe your sleep would shift around that, but like, or maybe it's like a part of what's going on, and like looking at like, okay, well, what's the thing going on here? That's because like I do think kind of like if you're, I don't know if that's like a sleep thing, I guess, but like if you're not spending any time with anyone ever, there's probably something up. my professional assessment.
Well, I like the phrase no man is an island, as in socially you shouldn't be entirely alone. It does seem like this is waxing metaphorical, but it seems good for people to have social lives. And
Yeah,
to the extent that it seems good, if I met someone who had barely any friends, and I would be surprised if they were the joyous person I'd ever met.
Yeah.
It happens to be that I suspect joyous people attract other people, and so it's unlikely that you'd be entirely alone and be the most joyous. Then again, maybe you found a way to be joyous alone, and you really enjoy just happy being yourself alone. Anyway, yes.
I think it's also how long, right? Like, because you could do retreats and stuff, and there are people do voluntary isolation for times, but I think like over years, that's, unless you're like really dedicated to like a specific thing that you need to be isolated for, it's like, I don't think that's good. It's like a literal like torture, because one of the ways they torture people,
right, is solitary confinement.
Yeah,
definitely. Like there is a usefulness here. I'd use the phrase like variation from normal, and I'd say like keep an eye on the ways in which you are variation from normal, and make sure you're okay with that. Now that may be sleep, that may be distraction, that may be not having friends, and just like it's not a guarantee, because you can just be weird in some way and you can be taller and that's fine, but just keep an eye on, and like worth checking this variation from normal. How do you feel about it? Are you okay with it? Are you happy with it? Are you like for any number of variations from normal?
Yeah, so this one is interesting because I think this one, okay, so the concept of beliefs have to pay rent.
Yes, this is very rationalist.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite rationalist things, because it really keeps a check on your beliefs. It really keeps your head clean when you do that. Like noticing how you differ from the normal, let's say normal or average or whatever median population, is one of those things that can take up a lot of space and like a lot of
right. I guess there's like implicit in how I described was like a gentle attitude towards the habit. Like just check how you feel about it. I'm not like suggesting to be extremely strict on how you're different and then chase after it, right? There's deliberately, the way that I described it is just a light review of like, how do you feel about that? And that's important because again, extremes are where we get pathology. So it just
because you could get stuck in something and like not have, like, you could be blind to things and seeing how other people are, especially like your peers, or if you went like cohort, like high school or whatever. Like this is like a delicate one because like yeah, like you kind of want to pay attention to them and see like what they're doing and seeing if
Do you have an
you're doing
example for beliefs that pay rent? That's like a good example of
a belief that pays rent.
or doesn't pay rent.
Um, yeah, so let's say instead of like switching topics, like in this situation, so if you have a belief that you're normal and you're exactly the thing, and then like and you have and let's say you have to be normal. So if you have a
Right.
belief it has to be normal, like
So you're
I
going
think
out and you're buying normal clothes and you are working out how normal it is to run late. So
yeah,
you always run
and
that
you're
much late.
constantly like keeping up with the Jones and like oh I have to fit in. That that belief pays some rent, but not for the amount of real estate that it takes up. Like that is not a
What
good
do you mean
deal.
by pays rent?
Like you do get some benefit from it,
Right. There is
but
some benefit from having this belief.
not relative to how much space it takes up.
Right.
Like it's like you're there, like you know, you're renting out like a huge, you can be renting out like a huge part of your psyche, let's say like hours and hours a day
Making
towards
things
that
more
belief. And
normal.
it's just giving you this like a little bit of like, oh, I wouldn't have known this, I wouldn't have known that. But then like the just the amount of machinery that it's taking up is just not for a lot of like I think is just like if you have to be that way, unless you're in like I don't know, whatever. There's probably exceptions, but in general, you but like there's exceptions, right? Like if you're in like a grad school or like medical school or something like that, then and you know like everyone's getting certain marks and you're not getting those marks, then like yeah, that's that's a problem probably.
Yeah, I guess I haven't reflected on this in a while, like the idea of beliefs paying rent. But I would almost suspect that uh, there's like a mental system for psychological energy where if there's too much psychological energy going into something like this normal, keeping track of normal pattern, and it's not returning, I would almost expect from a psychotechnologies perspective that those beliefs will like rebalance themselves. Like the part of the mind that is like obsessively turning towards it would start noticing this isn't working, and then like respond differently around it, either by doubling down or by like softening. Like this isn't even benefiting us anymore. This worked when I was a teenager, but not anymore. So I would prepare for a dynamic system. Like beliefs will naturally start changing when they don't pay rent, which is an opportunity as well, because of course, if you have beliefs that you don't like, you can put them into situations where they don't pay rent, and then you can start having leverage on like moving them around. For example,
Okay,
if you're like, I'm afraid
okay,
of heights, and you're like,
yeah.
this is burdening me a lot because I can't go in tall buildings, then what you can do is you can start approaching your fear of heights. You can start looking at high places and like extinction learning on that belief.
Yeah, so I just want to say I think like just a previous like okay, so let me tackle this gestalt here.
Yeah, sure. There's a
So
lot more here than I realized.
yeah, yeah, like you said thing there's like a bunch of things I want to say, but let's just kind of like form that into new, let go of the previous form and go into more formless state, less attachment on my part.
Yeah,
uh,
seems healthy.
so huh.
Seems healthy unless it's not. Stop letting go, Daniel. You're too detached.
uh
Anyway, sorry. Keep going. I'm distracted.
Sometimes, not here. Um, so yeah, so I think people get stuck sometimes in the beliefs, and then like you can get like a compulsion towards it. So like to start our psychology episode, it's like OCPD or OCD tendencies, where you're just like, okay, this belief is true and it has to be true, and then you like even if it's not paying rent, but it could like hijack the system that the feedback mechanism as well. I think for like yeah, like a lot of like social stuff tends to be like this, where there's shame involved, or I have to do this, or I'm a shameful person, like I have to keep up with the Joneses, or else that's gonna be bad in whatever dimension. And so people get stuck and like fixated on that for a long time, and lose a lot of their life. And I think the beliefs will update over time, but the question is how long, right? If it takes 50, 60 years to do it, then like that's not great. I got a baby here.
Baby time. Yo.
Hopefully he won't start crying. But,
Yeah.
come on.
We also have the possibility of wrapping up.
Yeah.
Baby starts crying.
Yeah.
He's been having a stressful time today.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know exactly what's up. I think it might be teething, or he might be sick, like have a cold. It's been very stressful the last couple of days. But like this is one of those things where like I have the belief that it's important to take care of him, and even if that rent isn't necessarily being paid exactly in the moment when he's screaming, like it's still worth it. And like, but that system itself is like subject to manipulation, right? And I kind of lost my train of thought. I can see, shut up. But that's sort of I think where we're going with that is that just because it sorts itself out doesn't mean we should examine it. I totally lost it.
Yeah, it's fine. There was it's very interesting to notice the attention grab. Like even me, I'm like, oh, my attention is there. I have no idea where I was, but I am here now. There's definitely different epistemics for parents and just having babies around. Like, oh, it has you experience your mind differently.
Yeah. It's cool because I actually like noticed that process as it was going. Like more, and like some of it was like seemingly choice, where I'm like, oh, like I can choose my priorities now, right? Do I want to take care of my kid, or do I want to do stream, or do I want to talk to people, or do whatever? Like everything is, at the beginning it was like very like obvious, like the choice prioritization. And it's interesting because I'm like, no, like obviously it makes sense to prioritize my kid over like most things. And so like that kind of just happens like automatically now. Which is nice because I don't have to think about it. Like the right decision just gets made. And yeah, and like it affects the Salient landscape where it's like automatic, right? So she came in, she had the baby, and I'm like this is the thing that takes priority, and if I have to, then we'll end the stream. Which I'm surprised he hasn't cried actually. So yeah, but also I'm like trying to remember the threads and stuff.
Don't worry, let go with the threads. They'll come back if they want to.
All right, I'll let you manage that. Make those choices.
Well, I guess one of the things I'm interested in is like the change of attention structure right here, like the change in mind. Like if you were a less integrated person, I'd be like, Daniel, who have you become? But actually, you're already this person. It's just the baby wasn't in the room at the time.
Yeah. That's what I like about being integrated. Is that like it didn't, like I didn't change when he came in. Only like my let's say Salient's landscape, like let's see, only what was like in my face, like only what was obvious to me changed. Like only my experience changed, not me. And it didn't hurt me. It like felt good. It was just like smooth.
Right. There wasn't like a antagonism around. Oh no, my topics they're falling away.
It was like a little bit, but yeah, there was a little bit because I'm like, oh, I should be able to deal with this and still remember what I was in the middle of saying. And so there is like that of like, oh, my identity as this amazing psychotechnologist that can do everything all at the same time, because all layers of reality are present at all times, and so I should exist in all of them all at once. Is like that image of myself is like, you know, like cracked or something, or like there's a hole in it or whatever. But also, I never claimed to be amazing. I'm just a human, so it's not that bad. It's not that much of an ego drop.
Right. So we were on beliefs must pay rent.
Yeah.
And then also
I believe that, and it pays a shitload of rent.
And also the wondering if beliefs naturally correct, or if the ways in which they will naturally correct if they're not paying rent sometimes won't happen for 20 or 30 years or a long period of time.
Yeah. And that's a hard life. Like
Well,
if you like focus a lot of time or energy on like and there's like a false belief there that kind of like created the whole thing.
All right, my plan is for another episode on mental health and possibly like different mental health conditions.
Yeah, we should discuss that with an off stream.
Yeah,
I think there's a bunch of really cool ideas.
Yep, seems good. All right, I think now's a good time to chill since you got baby life going on.
Yeah, should we do our outro?
Yeah, sure.